Welcome to Adventures in Relationship, a psychoeducational show about healthy relationships for adults with complex trauma, where we recognize relational recovery as an adventure. I'm Amy Gordon, an individual and couple psychotherapist working on unceded Tiwa land in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I also offer virtual therapy, so reach out if you'd like to work with me individually or as a couple. It's not uncommon for adults with complex trauma to question if their relationship is salvageable. We already talked about this in the previous episode. You might feel like you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. The question of should I say or should I go can take up a lot of mental bandwidth. And of course, I can't answer that question for you, but I can offer some considerations in making your own informed decision. Given that adults with complex trauma are more likely than others to find themselves in relationships with abusive dynamics, I've devoted a whole episode to the topic of considering abusive dynamics in your relationship. Check out that previous episode, Should I Stay or Should I Go, Part 1, if you're thinking about this, if this is something that you'd like to take a closer look at. Today, I'm going to bring in some other concepts for your consideration. That will include complex resentment, jealousy, and infidelity, your partner's willingness to change, respect of boundaries, and whether you as an individual can implement or inspire enough change in the dynamic to make it sustainable. So you want a rock solid relationship, but you've only ever suffered in your attempts. Complex trauma leaves us feeling trapped. We're lost and we lack the tools and skills required to find our way out of the woods, so to speak. We're exhausted from weathering constant emotional storms. And even when we're convinced that we need to leave, we're often too depleted at that point to endure all of the challenges entailed in calling it off. Still, it's massively important to know if and when you need to call it. Complex trauma leaves us without any model for healthy romantic relationships as we enter adulthood. No repair, poor boundaries, and a lack of true autonomy. You might have witnessed one parent being controlled or hurt by another. Or you may have learned that vicious fighting and constant tension are normal. Or maybe you were raised by a single parent who was closed off to partnership altogether. Or the opposite, perhaps a parent modeled repeated, desperate efforts to earn love by others, and that exposed you to a revolving door of unsafe suitors. Without a model to emulate, we struggle early on in our romantic endeavors, and we don't fully grasp what is healthy, understandable, or even forgivable in a relationship. We watch as our peers build stable lives on solid ground that seems inaccessible to us, and we wonder what we're missing, what they understand that we don't. Then our early romantic relationships primed us for a solidification of the scary and low expectations for relationships that we tend to carry. Our bar is sadly innately low, and we miss a lot of signs that would indicate to a less traumatized person that a prospective partner is unavailable or potentially harmful. It's somewhat ironic, but true, that we project past harm, yet we also miss alarm bells that others would more clearly pick up on. We engage in our journey both hyper alert and disoriented at the same time. The frustration that arises from this and other aspects of relational trauma, of course, contribute to like a propensity for complex resentment. Complex resentment is a term that I came up with. And in this context, the word complex refers to complicated emotions that can't simply be explained as grief or anger or contempt. Complex resentment, it shrouds our ability to see things as they are. We may live with an ever-present emotional pain, like a sense of pain or threat that permeates our experiences and the perception that we have of our partner. And we're not conscious of this, but we assume our partner is primed and capable of enacting the same types of relational harm that we've previously survived. Once you've seen a bear in the woods, because this is a common popular example right now, the bear in the woods, you start to expect a bear around every bend. Humans are projective creatures. The things that we remember, even implicitly or non-verbally, feed our underlying fears. And holding on to resentment can land us between a rock and a hard place. In some ways, it's the antithesis of taking on the role of a perpetrator. There's an element of moral superiority that comes with this stance of remaining in the victim role. The ability to notice and keep tabs on others' harmful behavior toward us is really important, and it's self-preserving. For most of us, it was developmentally delayed, and that's the case for adults with complex trauma, that we didn't learn how to do that right away. But for this reason, we're also arrested in our development of a necessary adjunct skill, which I like to call shitting or getting off the pot. Complex trauma survivors can spend their entire adult lives criticizing and complaining about their partner rather than actually leaving or taking responsible action to rectify the relationship. Another common experience of feeling wedged between a rock and a hard place is a matter of questioning your own reality. Not all adults with complex trauma are particularly concerned about being cheated on, but many feel stuck in not knowing if they can or should trust their partner. You may have learned about a parent's unfaithfulness, or you might have become implicitly concerned about unfaithfulness as a byproduct of other emotional wounds from childhood. But most complex trauma survivors internalize an overriding message that we're not lovable. So we develop a core belief that we're not worthy of full commitment, forsaking all others, unquote. And I'm applying this message to the norm of monogamy, but of course, there are parallels for consensually non monogamous folks as well. Um, so, being unfairly overpowered in childhood does a lot of things to us, but it leads to a belief that you're still easily overpowered by others. And that expectation can contribute to a fear that a rival could take over, even in the context of your most sacred and committed relationship. If you experienced devastating loss in childhood, it's second nature to expect that all you hold precious can be taken away by a more powerful other. We project our relational fears onto our partner. This core belief can impact the integrity of your relationship, and you know that if you've had this experience, even if you generally trust your partner. And of course, this episode wouldn't be complete without me addressing the matter of general attachment challenges. So, whether abuse, resentment, infidelity, or jealousy are factors making you ask if you should stay or go, your attachment style plays a lead role. Different attachment styles approach these problems, whether enacting or being the recipient of fear based behavior, for a lot of varied reasons. All insecure attachers struggle to cultivate the clarity necessary for making coherent relational decisions, because all insecure attachment leads to the activation of traumatic core wounds when considering or experiencing the end of a relationship. There's a level of pain and dissonance that secure attachers simply don't experience in the same way. I'll repeat something I said in the last episode. Freeing yourself from the experience of being trapped between a rock and a hard place requires movement. If you're going through hell, keep going. You have to try something different than what you've been doing. If you're lost in the woods, you have to move forward because there is no search party coming to find you. A couple is a dynamic system. So when one part of the system changes, other elements within that system have to change, compensate, or adapt in order to keep a homeostasis or stability. And ecosystems work in much the same way. So we use the example of wildfires. They consume a forest, but then sunlight reaches the ground and that activates seeds and shifts subsurface water and alters the microorganism population. And all of that is so that new life can flourish. And in much the same way, taking skillful action in a relationship can dramatically shift dysfunctional dynamics. Your pivot can be a strike of lightning that brings new life to your relationship. And I want you to honestly assess how effectively you're communicating. Are there unnecessary things that you say or do that trigger your partner? Do you threaten the existence of your relationship when things get tense, even in subtle ways? That's a real big no no in couple therapy, threatening the existence of the relationship. Do you get reactive and cruel? Do you punish your partner or get passive aggressive? Have you figured out how to be fully transparent without being hurtful? Unless you're 100% sure you never do these things, there is work that you can do. Just keep making small, sustainable changes, really. And another suggestion I'll offer is to listen to how your partner words what they value in a relationship and reflect those things to them. So, avoidant attachers really need to feel like you're on their team and have their back at all times, that you value and respect them. And of course, anxious attachers really need regular reassurance that your commitment is undying, that they're so very special to you, and that you care about what they feel each and every day. Disorganized attachers need to know that you're willing to invest in the relationship. Things like moving in, sharing expenses, and being consistently available really enhance their sense of safety. You can be, of course, unique and spontaneous, but you need to know that unpredictability in certain areas can feel very destabilizing and threatening to a disorganized attacher. Just chip away at small things. I'm not talking about a revolution. And I don't know if a lightning strike or wildfire are great examples, but chip away at small changes in the ways you interact with your partner and keep learning and leveling up your relational skills. This can feel like an unpaid part-time job, honestly, that lasts for years. And it's unfair that you have to devote this amount of energy to relationships when non-traumatized people don't have to, but it is worth it. Ongoing relational stress is a massive energy drain that wreaks havoc in every area of your life. So do what you can to prevent it. But also keep in mind that you shouldn't be working 10 times as hard as your partner. There's a girthy line between putting forth sufficient effort and seriously overfunctioning. If they're not also working to improve the relationship, that's a problem. If they aren't philosophically aligned with basic relational values like mutuality or equity, certainly honesty, that's a problem. You don't have to believe everything that they say when they're dysregulated, but you should believe what they say under normal circumstances. And you should request repair for anything hurtful they might have said while dysregulated. A partner's ability to apologize, repair, and improve their behavior is a great indication as to whether or not the relationship is workable. Another consideration I want you to make is whether your partner respects your stated boundaries. And that talking about the boundaries that you're fully responsible for upholding, like having a boundary around not gossiping or not being around certain people. I'm talking about recurrent pressure for sexual acts you said that you're not willing to engage in. I'm talking about them knowing you don't like to be startled and they continue to jump out and scare you for fun. I'm talking about like you telling them that this is just an example that came up in a session recently. You're grossed out by spit and they recurrently lick you, that kind of thing. If they can't respect very basic stated boundaries, they are not good partner material. There's a ton of normal variances in partner preference that can be worked on, but these things are not workable. So whether you, your partner, or both need assistance in figuring out how to act in your relationship, I highly recommend seeking professional help if at all possible. And of course, I recommend PACT or EFT as models that you want your couple therapist to be aligned with. If your partner refuses to see a couple therapist, consider that information to include in your decision making. Their willingness and motivation for positive change are really important. Many couple therapists take insurance, but I understand that affordability can be an exclusionary factor. But there are numerous books, podcasts, videos, and other less costly resources that can be really helpful. Any good relational resource should acknowledge the role and behavior of both partners, even if only one seems to be acting badly. Um, because complicity and resentment are contributing factors in any unhealthy relationship. So when chronic resentment is a factor, you just can't see the forest for the trees. It's like we become so entrenched in the pattern recognition of our partner's behavior that our self-preserving instincts block our ability to start anew and choose different actions. Mental health professionals, too, have historically done a pretty terrible job of supporting clients to learn relational skills because we live in a really individualistic society. Therapists tend to be well trained in assisting with individual development, even to the detriment of important relationships. Individual therapists inadvertently sabotage relational progress through empowering, and I'm using quotes for those of you who are listening, empowering their client in a way that's essentially what we call maleficent or harmful, given that the quality of our relationships determines the quality of our health and lives. Empowerment isn't just having a firm, unfuckable with attitude. Empowerment is also learning how to communicate in an effective manner, resulting in relational transformation. I'll come back to the topic of jealousy because it's a really great and common example of these kind of matters requiring careful and effective communication. The problem with discussions regarding jealousy is that they often disregard its traumatic roots. As a society, we judge jealousy as illogical, controlling, and distrustful. But not liking or agreeing with jealousy does absolutely nothing to counteract it. Even within a singular psyche, there are parts that hate and judge jealous parts. But fear and insecurity can't be counteracted with logic, the same as any other fear. It has to be worked with, not argued out of existence. So, the purpose of this episode, deciding if you should stay or go, may involve identifying whether your partner is actually being unfaithful versus your own fears of infidelity. If you suffer from jealousy or the fear of being betrayed, you have a legitimate need for safety and transparency, and you do deserve to have that need met. You have every right to walk away from a relationship with anybody who refuses to be honest, have reasonable boundaries with others, or offer reassurance when you feel frightened. All that being said, you don't have the right to make unsubstantiated accusations or violate their privacy. The same rights pertain to all matters of fear and frustration as well. Insecure attachment primes us with specific fears and sensitivities. For disorganized attachers, anything that hints at a lack of trustworthiness or stability can cue their reactivity. For avoidant attachers, privacy and autonomy are touchy topics and they can really lead to escalated emotions. And anxious attachers often feel threatened and become accusatory around any subject that brings up fear of rejection or abandonment. So, as you contemplate your decision, first and foremost, bear in mind the necessities of a sustainable relationship. So, ask, like, is your partner a safe enough person, or are they at least willing to do the work to become so? Are they motivated? And of course, a good question is, are you willing to learn about and to set boundaries like you never have before? That's a big part of the work. Can you allow yourself to feel how you feel while also adapting the ways that you interact with your partner? So, another question, ask yourself, if this relationship provides you with enough of what you want in a relationship to make it worth sacrificing all that you're just not going to get out of this particular relationship. You might have to acknowledge that there's grief there. Um, that's an okay thing to do. And it's also okay to realize that it's just not worth all of the loss of certain things that are important to you. But keep reality in perspective. Adults with complex trauma have to learn to differentiate hurt from harm. Not every slight annoyance or challenge means that you've been harmed. If you're not sure whether your emotional experiences are proportional to your partner's transgressions, I recommend you consider getting help figuring that out. And just as much as individual or couple therapy could be helpful, I also think 12-step programs like ACA, CODA, SAA, and Al Anon, among others, are great options for exploring what you can do to shift the dynamics in your relationship. At the end of the day, you need to accept your partner as they are, essentially. Their personality is not going to change much within your lifetime. So you need to address behavior instead of traits. Change in a relationship requires a certain leap of faith, too. You have to take some risks that may feel antithetical to your trauma induced instincts. Intuition and your ability to authentically self activate are sometimes hiding underneath those trauma induced reactions. Practice in small and safe pockets of time. Just the practicing suspending your disbelief in the possibility of positive change when you can, even if the path forward is not fully visible yet. If your partner is good enough and wants you both to thrive in your relationship, you're in pretty good hands. So don't underestimate the power of making those like small progressive improvements in the ways that you interact. And I think that's about all I have for you today. Best of luck on your journey. I really mean that. And as always, I encourage you to get professional help locally or online if you're struggling. I'm a therapist. Clearly, I'm not your therapist, and I can't ethically make any observation or apply specific feedback um, or recommendations, to your life without consensually entering into a provider relationship with you. If you do want to work with me, just reach out. There are means that are available right now, just Psychology Today and Instagram, but working on a website at this time. Don't rely on podcasts or webcasts as your primary mental health support. Take really good care of yourself and take care of your partner if you're committed. You really don't have to abandon yourself to do so. And in a way, that's kind of what all of my work is about, like how to take care of the relationship while not abandoning yourself. I appreciate you taking the time to watch or listen to this today. My mission is to help adults with complex trauma find emotional freedom and learn how to thrive in relationship. If you can take a moment to subscribe, follow, rate, review, or share this episode, it's really helpful. Once again, thank you for watching or listening. Till next time.